What is up, everybody? Welcome back. We are here in my garage today installing the Smittybilt Atlas rear bumper and tire carrier. We got held up last time because we were missing these steel plates here, but now we got them. So we're going to get this on today. Welcome to Cheryl Spin TV. We were at Leo's house trying to install the bumper. I hadn't had the tire carrier yet. I didn't know that it was sitting at a shipping facility waiting for me to call them to schedule a delivery. So we decided we were just going to put the bumper on by itself anyway. And then we got to Leo's and we opened everything up, and we were missing these steel insert plates that are just welded nuts that slide into here, and then the new bumper bolts into these plates. So we called Smittybilt, and Smittybilt wasn't open, so we couldn't get in touch with them. And I ended up contacting the person I bought the bumper from. They made me send the other bumper back, and they sent me a new bumper, and the new bumper came and it still didn't have the plates. So I called Smittybilt again, and they picked up and told me that the plates are actually in the tire carrier box, separate from the bumper. So I got off the phone with him, I went over there and I opened up the box and I found these plates. So now we're pretty much good to go. We're just gonna get this mounted up today and add the tire carrier. It's all a big 40-step process, and we'll go through it. So yeah, we're gonna slap this on today now that we have the parts. Let's get started. So I already took this bumper off. Again, it was just, we had the 4 bolts, we put it back on temporarily. So took the bumper off. I took the existing tire carrier, which is just attached by these 8 bolts, off. Had to unplug the 3rd brake light because there's an extension piece that comes with the new tire carrier, and we're just gonna have to rewire the brake light because it sits up a little bit higher. So all that stuff is off. The old bumper's off. The plates are already slid into place, so the next thing we're gonna do is lift up the bumper, put it in place, and then put these 4 bolts in loosely. And then there's 4 bolts here that hold the hitch in place. Then we're gonna go back through and tighten everything down. All right, so what we just did was we lifted the bumper up into place and put the first couple bolts in just to keep the bumper here, keep it from falling, keep it from moving. So now we're just gonna kind of work it around and get it in place so we can get the other holes lined up and get the last 2 bolts in.
This is the first time he's using this. This is the first time I've seen one of these been used. So we're just jacking up the bumper.
Yep. Not really supporting the weight of the vehicle, so it's not really dangerous right now because we're not, if this was to fall, this bumper's already bolted in partially, so it's not going to go anywhere, but just taking a little bit of weight off of it so we can line these bolts up. Alright, so we got all 4 bolts into the frame on the sides of the frame, and now we have to get these bolts in behind the trailer hitch, which is here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts there. And then once we're done getting those in, we can tighten everything up and this bumper will be installed and done. And then we have to work on the tire carrier. It's 2 little access holes at the bottom of the bumper that are cut out. That allow you to get your hand up in here to get the nuts on the back of these bolts. Actually went on a little bit easier than I thought it would. The reason this is so heavy duty, this is a class 3 rated hitch, which allows you to tow up to like 10,000 pounds or something. The Jeep can't even tow as much weight as this bumper can handle, so I don't think it's ever going to come off. So this is on pretty simple process. Once you get the old bumper off and get those nut plates in there, there's a total of 8 18mm bolts. There's 4 behind here, behind this hitch, and then there's 2 on each side. And that's pretty much it. If we wanted to leave just the bumper and we weren't doing the tire carrier, we would be done. But the next step is to get the tire carrier mounted up, start getting the hinges and stuff in place, and you know, get it adjusted. So on to the next step. So next step is to apply grease in this hole right here. This is the tire carrier. It just says hole and tire carrier. This is where the actual pin is going to go to, that it swivels on. This is the pin here. So we're just going to grease these things up. I just had some grease laying around, CV joint grease. Any grease will work. It's just to keep everything moving smooth. It doesn't come with grease, so if you don't have grease laying around, definitely go get some. So you squeeze some in here. Use our fingers to wiggle it around, just so everything slides together nice and easy and stays moving. It says to install one stainless pin washer under the tire gate, so which is going to go here. Just creates a barrier between the actual hinge and the thing that it's resting on, which is the bumper. So now we're inserting this into here. Getting this to line up for me would be a nightmare. So what I'm trying to do is get this to drop down into the rear bumper, and it's just enough space for this to just, this has to line up with this, which has to line up with this, and then this whole pin has to go through everything, has to go through the washer and then down into the bumper. So I'm just trying to finagle things around until it drops into place somehow. Motivator. Installing cam wheel over the main pin. Somehow. Just installed the cam wheel over the main pin shoulder. Install the 1/2 inch by 6.5 inch bolt and washer through the main pin into the main pin nut plate. So this is going to go underneath, and I guess they welded this little piece here so you can hold it in place. And this is going to slide through here and then screw into this. Easy peasy, I'm sure. There's a flat part on this, so I'm assuming that this has to be lined up somehow. And that probably stops it from spinning. That's it. It says do not tighten at this time. Adjustable wheel mount, adjustable bracket. Adjustable twice. And what we're doing is lining it up with the back of the spare, because it's a universal bolt pattern here. So you're just going to kind of slide it around until your holes all lined up. And I just had it lined up, of course. Alright, so now we got these two holes and this hole lined up. So this is how the tire is going to mount to the bracket that's going to mount to the back of the tire swing. So it wants us to mark these holes so that we know which holes we're using. So I'm just going to get something like a screwdriver and scratch it up. So I got to get these studs into this plate. I think what I'm going to do is use these lug nuts, tighten them up, and that'll just pull the, I'm going to use a washer too. So as I tighten this, it should pull this right into the hole. It should. So I'm trying to tighten this lug nut into the stud and drawing the stud into here because I don't have a press. This is kind of a caveman way of doing it, I guess. I'm going to do this with a breaker bar, so got a little more leverage. We'll line this up with the tire, and then this, we're just going to put it on the biggest setting. But these bolts are going to go into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes, and then this is going to get mounted to the actual tire spring. I just tightened up these 5 bolts to hold this piece, which is what the tire attaches to this piece, which is what the tire gate attaches to. So those are all torqued down. I believe the next step is to temporarily mount this to the actual tire, and then we're going to figure out our height placement. I really feel like this is going to, the fact that this is sticking out, is going to cause an issue, but I guess we'll find out when we get there. We just temporarily mounted the tire to this so we can get an idea of what height to mount this to here, and we just marked the hole that's going to line up with these bottom holes. So we're looking at something like that. So we're just going to get this mounted to here. I'm thinking we might have to get some spacers or longer bolts because we're already at the outermost adjustment for this to be as far away from here, and we don't want the tire actually hitting this because then the tire is going to be crooked. It's not going to be mounted flush. So we're going to get that attached to here and set the tire up on there and see what we got going on and figure out if we have to put some spacers in. And if we do need spacers, we'll go get some. It's definitely hitting the tire, so it's kind of sitting a little bit this way. But more importantly is when we tighten this down, if it doesn't move and it doesn't vibrate and it doesn't make any noise, that's where it's going to stay. I really don't want to stick washers on there because washers are just going to take up more space. We're not going to be able to get as many threads on here. I mean, maybe down the line at some point we can put washers and bring the whole thing out a little bit, but it's better for it to sit up against this. That'll stop it from vibrating, making any noise. This particular gas can that I bought doesn't fit on this side. Fits on this side. Not if I want the nozzle here. I actually had to take the nozzle off, so I'd have to store it somewhere else anyway just to get this to fit. But so I might have to look into some different jerry cans for this particular setup. Which kind of sucks because you got a great deal on these. I'm just gonna get these set up now and put the jack on, get all the weight set up so we can do the adjustments on this to get everything level so it doesn't close, so it closes without scraping up this. So that's the step we're on now. It's just doing adjustments.
So we forgot to bring the gas cans with us because it tells us to load up the tire carrier with all the weight so that you can make adjustments, and we forgot to bring the gas cans with us to fill up with gas so we have the full weight. So we're just going to fill it up with water to see how it is, even though we may or may not use these gas cans, but it's going to be around the same weight anyway.
So we're installing this brake light extension bracket. First part of that is putting this together. So it's just a couple small just a couple small screws and nuts here, 10 millimeter. And then this is just go up and down according to the height of where your tire is set. We have a pretty big tire, and it's 35 inch, so it's probably going to have to go up pretty high. And then the stock third light attaches to this, so you can make sure that you have your third light running. I still have to extend it. I have to extend the wiring for the third brake light. Not going to do that on this video, but just know that you'll have to pull the wiring out of the tailgate, reroute it, because with the new tire carrier, existing wiring is not going to work because you would have to basically unplug the third brake light every time you wanted to open the tire carrier. Like even on its highest setting, it's not going to, you're not going to see it. So we just brought this over to the tire carrier and put it up next to the tire, and on its highest setting, it's just kind of peeking over the top of the tire. So at some point we're going to have to lower the tire so that you can see the third brake light. Not doing that today. Just going to get this mounted up and on there so that in the future when I go to extend the wire and I feel like taking the tire off and lowering the bracket that's holding the tire right now, I can do it at that point. So now we are installing these U-brackets, which are meant to hold the high lift jack on the tailgate. So just a couple 13 millimeter screws, a U-bracket, and then we'll do it on an angle, and then the jack will mount right here. So we're gonna take this off.
You're just gonna slide it back. Oh, you got.
Well, you have to take it all out, and then we're gonna move it back so that it kind of overhangs this, and that'll give us room to put the jack here, and we'll still have room to get these out. So, yep, that's the plan. So we just got to adjust this now, because when we swing it closed, it's starting to rub right here. Just for all the weight. So there's an adjustment on this thing called a cam, which I guess we can rotate it, and it, no idea how it works, but so we're just taking the head of this ratchet and inserting it into the squares, and we did like this just gives you like a grip to be able to move this wheel. Every time we move it, it's like a setting. The last setting we just did, well, was too high, so it wasn't lining up with the latch. Now it's twice as high. So we're going to try to go back like 2 settings. So there's a nut plate that we inserted in here earlier when we dropped this pin through it. And there's like a little, I don't know, it's like a welded on like little like stick that you could just hold it in place. And then once we started tightening it, the stick went inside here. And there's a flat part on the washer that once it rotates to a certain spot, it locks up against this and it stops it from spinning, so you're able to tighten this. So tightening this down has now locked this wheel, which means that the up and down adjustment of this will never move. Now there's a cap that we got to stick on here. We're pretty much done. I love how they're like calling themselves Atlas now. Slowly, they've been releasing parts under the Atlas name. Because I think they're starting to stray away from the Smittybilt name because their reputation precedes them. I will say that this thing is really, really heavy duty, and it's holding 2 jerry cans of fuel, a high lift jack, 35-inch tire. All in all, with the tire carrier and the bumper, it weighs about 350 pounds. We have 2 spots for D-rings here, recovery points. We have a class 3 rated tow hitch. Everything's mounted to the frame of the Jeep. We can pull 10,000 pounds with this if we ever had the need to. And it really did kind of go on easy. The instructions suck, but that being said, I'm really happy with the way it looks. I think it's super functional. I think we're gonna get some great use out of it, and I'm really happy I went with this bumper. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe, ring that notification bell. Make sure you get notified every time we have a new video. And thank you for watching Trailspin TV.